All right then, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching another, of course, another live, of course, another live broadcast of this podcast. And of course, for those that are watching by way of YouTube, make sure to go to youtube.com/King Von Jr. and make sure to like and subscribe, for more content. And so I think it's very fitting that that make this presentation when it comes to when it comes to my list of the greatest Star Wars series, and when I say series, I'm talking about as far as the live action movies, as well as this as well as the TV shows, as well as the animated series. What I mean, it's just all around, all in just in general. And so at first it was kind of tough to do. I did my best to try to do a top 10, maybe top 20, but I think 15 at least will really be the best number to really like rank and evaluate, and really just judge accordingly, because of the fact that Star Wars has offered so much, especially with this year being the 45th anniversary. I wish I would have, wish I would have done more at that time, but at the same time, I was just booked with, just preoccupied with so much other content when it comes to my podcast, everything like that. But I think it's the time really for me to really, like I said, really narrow down so far my list, of the top 15, Star Wars, pretty much Star Wars series so far. And I know like Andor's not finished yet, but like I said, because it's still 2022, I still want to, really, really get this material out. And so like I said, I'm doing my ranking from 15 to 1. And so so I'll say like this, at number 15, I have I have Star Wars. I think it was episode. I want to say it was let me see. I want to say a Star Wars: A Phantom Menace. Let me see. I think it was about episode 2. I want to say it is. No, it was actually. Sorry about that. Episode 1. And the thing is, the prequels, I'll be honest, I don't really hold them in the absolute highest regard. And of course, over time, Revenge of the Sith, out of all the sequels, I say Revenge of the Sith is the one that has really aged the best. Is really like I say it's one of those that that's really grown on like I said, it's let me slow down. It's really grown on me as a fan. And I think it's grown with like I said, it's grown with like I say, it's one of those that's let me slow down. Like I say, it's certainly one of those series that that's absolutely grown, like I said, really grown on a lot of other people. And man, sorry about that. Yeah, so like I said, it's one of those series that's like I said, over time has certainly aged much better than like I said, than at the time at the time that first came out. So at that time it certainly wasn't received well. And but I'll say it like this. Time has a way of of really getting you to reflect and really have a better appreciation of if like I said, time. Let me slow down. Time has a way of showing you how to really understand and really appreciate appreciate greatness, or at least, like I said, really appreciate something, like I said, and just really understand, because of the fact that it's a prequel, and it really planted the seeds to like I said, to what we will eventually see unfold when it comes to, like I said, when it comes to like the rise of Anakin and everything like that, and just to see his origin story from the time that he was the chosen one to to who we know him as now. It's like just for that, I have a Phantom Menace at number 15. At number 14, I would say this, one of the more divisive movies, especially when it comes to the when it comes to like the sequel trilogy, if you will, You know what I mean? Like when you talk about like episodes 7 through 9, as far as that arc and everything like that, so number 14, like it was like I said, it was definitely very divisive. Saying and I have to go with Rise of Skywalker at number 14 on this list. Excuse me. And the reason why I have this so low is because of the way it was executed. Especially considering that they force feed Rey as this chosen Jedi, everything like that, and the way that they reduce Finn to but it's like by each movie, Finn's role was reduced more and more to the point where he was an absolute total non-factor. And the way they shoehorn Rey as far as being a part of as far as being a new Jedi, potentially like an extension of the Skywalker dynasty, or at least like as far as her, I think more so being like Palpatine's granddaughter or something like that. It's like like whatever, and the way they brought Palpatine back is just like I didn't really see the point, especially considering that Han Solo is dead, Luke Skywalker's dead, and everything like that. It's just, it's just like, come on now. I figure if anything, certain things, certain characters really need to be left in that part of history. So, Palpatine for me, is certainly one of those characters that, like I said, like I said, the perfect ending for him was in, like I said, was in Return of the Jedi. And so, so for them to bring him back at such a time like this, I'm like, not really. Like I said, if anything, I certainly was not feeling it. I felt like that they could have done more when, like I said, when it came to the Kylo Ren character, so that's the reason why. That, like I said, those are big reasons why Rise of Skywalker is not that high on this list. Number 13. This was a tough one because of the fact that because I spent several episodes covering this entire series, all 7 episodes of this series, and that is none other than the Book of Boba Fet. And the reason why the Book of Boba Fet is as low as it is on this list is because, like I said, the reason, like I said, the reason why I have the Book of Boba Fet ranked so low on this list is is because of the way they had such a slow start, and with if it's especially considering that the most of the time was spent as a backtrack, as a way of constantly backtracking the timeline to the time that like I said, to the time that Boba Fett finally got out of the Sarlacc pit. And there was a lot of time spent on the Tusken Raiders and everything like that. And there was a lot of criticism about it, where you might as well call the show the Book of the Tusken Raiders. And so, and plus, Boba Fett, even though he was, even though this was his time as a leader, a lot of the criticism was the fact that he was shown as weaker, shown as more vulnerable, shown as just like pretty much like more worn down than anything else. And I think the biggest blemish on this series was the fact that the best episode was the episode that was all about the Mandalorian. The fact that the best episode of your series does not have you in it, I mean, that speaks volumes. If anything, that's an indictment on if anything, that's an indictment on the series, indictment on the character's impact and value and everything like that. So so it wasn't a bomb or anything like or whatever. I'll say like this: the Book of Boba Fett certainly had its moments, here and there, especially when it came to cameos like such as Thundercat and others and everything like that. You know what I mean? So but in general, and also I was a huge fan of the Chrysanthemum character. You know what I mean? And so like I say, I like that, and I like how there was more of a focus on Tatooine, more of a focus on ruling Jabba's lair and everything like that. But as far as that, and plus I also like how it's like start over. Also like how they introduce characters that were in the anime series. Especially someone such as Cad Bane, Ahsoka Tano. Even though Ahsoka Tano, was initially in the Mandalorian, but like so, I like that. I also like the cameo of Luke Skywalker. You know what I mean? So so as far as that, those were some of the highlights. But in general, the anytime anytime an episode or a cameo character is the biggest episode of your own series, anytime somebody else has the best episode of your series without you in it, you know what I mean? That's it to me, that's definitely a blemish on that show's resume. So that's the reason why the Book of Boba Fett is at number 13 on this list. At number 12 on this list, I would go with for me, it's kind of a toss up. If anything for me, at number 12, I would actually have to go with Solo, a Star Wars story, the Han Solo origin story. And so I think because of the fact that the guy that played Han Solo in this movie, because of the fact that he was following the footsteps of an icon, of a giant like Harrison Ford, and he's going back in time, going back in time, where he's playing the younger Han Solo, the Han Solo before he met Luke and Leia and everybody else. So this was Han Solo pre-rebellion. So if so if anything, that I think that's the reason why to me that there was somewhat of a disconnect. But it also showed the backstory of how he got the Millennium Falcon in the first place, and how he became friends with Lando Calrissian. And shout out to Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, for his role as Lando. And like I say, if anything, I always have to say that was like that was like the biggest marquee value of that movie was Childish Gambino's part as the young Lando Calrissian. So if anything, I thought that was pretty cool. You know what I mean? So but other than that, I would put like I said, I'll put Solo at number 12 on this list, and I think that's pretty much like a consensus overall choice. You know what I mean? So I would say that's not too bad of a pick. And so at number 11 on this list, I have Star Wars Rebels. So it's the first time, this is the first time on this list that I have an animated series on here. And the thing about it is, the reason why I have Star Wars Rebels on here is just because of it's one that, like I said, I think just because of how special it is to a certain demographic, to a certain generation of Star Wars fans, and it's one of the more memorable series of the franchise. You know what I mean? So like I say, it was definitely it was definitely like one of the longer lasting series of the franchise, whether it was whether it was a live action show or animated show. And to me, I think Rebels has a certain type of, I guess you could say, like sentimental value when it comes to Star Wars fans. So that's the reason why Rebels is at number 11 on this list. And I'll say it's certainly honorable mention among Star Wars history, especially when it comes to the top 10. So it's like a slight edge out of the top 10. And of course, number 10 was one of the more recent series. And number 10 for me was I'll say, I'll say it like this: it was certainly a surprise, um, but at the same time, not too much of a surprise. Well, I'll say it like this: um, the number 10 series on this list um, was certainly a breath of fresh air. It was the 180 from what we saw in the Book of Boba Fet, because there's so much, I guess, pretty much like critical backlash towards the Book of Boba Fett. Um, this series that followed right after that was very instrumental when it came to just like I said, just being a breath of fresh air, and how it was, like I said, how it was now, how it was not only a surprise, but just how it became significantly better than what we saw from Boba Fett. But once again, this is not a bash on Boba Fett. If anything, he's one of my favorite Star Wars characters. I just wish that that they had, like I said, I wish that there was more material to go along with it. I wish they would have done more to make him look stronger, done more to, like I said, I mean, even though he was battle tested and worn down and everything like that, whatever, but at the same time, it just just really made it look like they showed his age even more. So with that being said, of course, the number 10 is another backtrack series, and this is none other than Kenobi. I think it's self-explanatory, and it's like if anything from the jump. Excuse me. This series takes place like if I would say like this. Number 10 is Kenobi, and this series takes place 10 years in Darth Vader's reign as ruler of the Empire, and of course, this is a younger Obi-Wan Kenobi. And what I mean, so of course, because it's the younger Kenobi. This is the stronger, more dominant Kenobi. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi, well into his prime, and this is Darth Vader well into his prime. This is like I said, because of the fact that this is Vader, 10 years into his reign, and of course, goes to show that Kenobi was still very much a match for Darth Vader, and not only that, because of the fact that Obi-Wan Kenobi. Pretty much like when it comes to head to head, pretty much had like consistently, has pretty much had Vader's number, and like I said, this is one of those series that really starts to I guess put more pieces together when it comes to the puzzle, and get if anything, like I said, it's a great way to fill in the gaps, fill in the spaces, to see what was going on between episode 3, Rogue One, and then episode 4. So this is the gap between 3, Rogue One, and episode 4. So this is right after episode 3, before, like I said, well before Rogue One, and obviously way before episode 4, obviously, and so like I say, and it's just, and also, I like how it showed Darth Vader's absolute viciousness and ruthlessness, and the way that they CGI James Earl Jones' voice as Darth Vader to sound like, obviously sound much younger, and to sound more vicious, sound more menacing, sound more intimidating, just sound more dangerous overall. And of course, in that series, the breakout star was the Inquisitor, and that was very groundbreaking, very remarkable to see a Black woman character in Star Wars, even though initially she was a villain, even though she was initially part of the Empire. It's just that the way that she asserted herself and would not take no for an answer and everything like that. Like I said, and just for her, just the way that she rose in Vader's ranks, even though we found out later that she was one of the kids that survived Order 66, and I'll say it like this, especially when, like I said, especially when you look at the way that she rose in ranks and how she refused to take no for an answer. It rubbed a lot of people in the Empire the wrong way, especially Vader later on. Like I said, but at the same time, that Inquisitor character was absolutely remarkable, absolutely incredible, And so I think her name was like Moses Guthrie or something. You know what I mean? Like I said, if anything, um, if nothing else, I would have to say if you had to pick an MVP for the series, you might as well say it was her. You know, especially after all the ridicule, all the racism, all the threats and criticism that she faced, and for her to do that role so well, so excellently, like I said, I literally tip my hat off to her for that. You know, and I wish her nothing but nothing but the best, even more. So that's the reason why at number 10 I have Kenobi, at number 10 on this list. At number 9 on this list, I have Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and the reason why I had this at number 9 is because of the fact it's because out of is because of the fact that um, when you look at the original prequels, out of all those movies, this movie has aged the absolute best because because this is the direct um, origin story of Darth Vader. So this is where Anakin officially makes his full-fledged descent into darkness, full-fledged descent into madness, and takes and becomes Darth Vader, and like I say, and it just becomes absolutely sinister. Especially when you look at what he did with Order 66, that final lightsaber battle against Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like things like that. Those certain elements within that story, those moments are what makes this movie so great and causes it over time to age well, and over time fans start to appreciate it even more. So that is so because of that, that's the reason why I have Revenge of the Sith at number 9. At number 8, at the Clone Wars. And for me, the reason why I have the Clone Wars at number 8, once again, just like with Rebels, it was one of those animated series that really caught on, and this series showed, even though it was an animated form, once again it showed how vicious Darth Vader can be, and also when you look at the animated series between like I said, between Clone Wars and Rebels, they show the friendship between Anakin and Ahsoka Tano. And then and the thing about this is especially when it comes to Clone Wars, in an animated form, it shows Anakin's descent into madness, Anakin's transformation, in the way he completely morphed into Darth Vader. And I remember watching Kenobi, and somewhere online, and the thing is, online they showed the parallels between Kenobi and Clone Wars when Vader's mask got broken, and they showed like that the one like and they showed Anakin's face, and how it talks about how in the series Anakin talks about how Vader killed Anakin Skywalker, not really Obi-Wan Kenobi, but it was Vader that killed Anakin Skywalker. And you know what I mean? And like I said, and just to see the parallels between the battle that Vader had with Obi-Wan versus the battle they had with Ahsoka Tano. And you know what I mean? And so like I said, and like I said, this in an animated form really, like I said, really shows how ruthless, how menacing, how maniacal, how dangerous Darth Vader really is, especially when you look at, like I said, especially when you look at a much younger Darth Vader, younger, hungrier, far more aggressive Darth Vader that looked to rule everything in his path. So that, like I said, so as far as that, that's the reason why I have Clone Wars at number 8 on this list. At number 7 on this list, I know this one can be a bit divisive as well, but it still has to have, it still has to have consideration, considering where it lies within, like I said, within Star Wars lore, and that is The Last Jedi. So this picks up right after The Force Awakens, and this is when Rey meets Luke Skywalker, and trains with him and everything like that. And this is where this is where we see the ultimate battle between Luke. Something sorry about that. This is where we see the ultimate battle between Luke and one of his former students, his nephew Kylo Ren. And the way that Luke, even in his more advanced age, at like 66, was going up against, like I said, going up against, a more modern day, younger version of his dad. You know what I mean? So if anything, Kylo Ren was supposed to be the new generation, new era, millennial version of Darth Vader. Now granted, even though Kylo did not make the same impact culturally as Darth Vader, even though Kylo Ren, has not transcended culture, transcended the series the way that Vader did. I think, if anything, I still like the final battle in that series, or not in the series, but in the movie in and of itself. And I like, and the thing is, this movie showed how Ben Solo eventually became Kylo Ren, and how and how Luke Skywalker had to take responsibility for for the way that he fell short, in the way that he trained Ben, who eventually became Kylo. And so and think about it, like I said, I think the thing that makes this movie fall further down is, like I say, it's just the lack of critical acclaim. So critically, it wasn't very well received. It wasn't that great. So, and plus, we measure it with, like I said, and plus, not only that, we measure it with the movies and series that have ahead of it on this list. That's the reason why it is where it is. So, actually, if anything, yeah. So, yeah. So, let me start out. So of course that, slow down. So I'll say it like this. Let me slow down. Because, I said, let me slow down. Because of that, that's the reason why, like I said, that's the reason why a movie like The Last Jedi falls a little bit. That's the reason why, that's the reason why a movie like The Last Jedi falls further down the way that it does on this list. So yeah, so like, it's like I said, let me slow down. That's like I said, if anything, that's the reason why I have The Last Jedi ranked where it is. So next, so if anything, next up on this list, I have Rogue One. And the reason why I have Rogue One ranked as high as as high as I do on this list is because the reason why I have Rogue One ranked as high as I do on this list is because it was something that was, I would say, like, it was something that was just completely out the blue, and you had these characters that nobody knew of, that, I said, it was just completely out of left field. It was something that I don't think anybody really expected to be as special as it was. And not only did it deliver, to me, it over delivered. And the thing is, Rogue One might as well be episode 3.5, episode 3.5, because because it's the bridge between episode 3 and episode 4. Well, let me say it again. It's the bridge between episodes 3, then Kenobi, then Andor, then this, and then episode 4. If anything, Rogue One bleeds right into episode 4. And for me, I would say the highlight of Rogue One was the last scene with Darth Vader, how he just completely wrecked everything in his path, everything that was in front of him. Yes, it was classic Darth Vader. It was um everything that we knew of him to be, everything that we knew that made him so great. And so, what I mean. So like I said, like I said, as far as that, and just and not only that, but not only that, but the fact that we had characters that had never been established before, characters that were completely out of the norm, out of what we knew as Star Wars history, and like I say, and the way that they stepped up the way that they stepped up in this movie was absolutely amazing. Like I said, like I said, so whether it was Jen Urso, K2SO, and pretty much you name it, whatever. You know what I mean? So if anything, like I said, Rogue One, with like I said, to me, with execution that this movie had was absolutely remarkable. It was absolutely brilliant. And so for that, it is number 6 on this list. Now it's time to go into my top 5. I know this ranking may seem a bit controversial, but because of how successful this series has been, I think it warrants a top 5 slot on this list when you look at the overall scope of Star Wars series, whether it's the movies, the animated series, the live action shows, you name it. You know what I mean? Like this series established a new character, and I like the way that, and the thing is, much like Rogue One, I like how this show focuses on other story arcs, other characters that are outside of the Skywalker family. You know what I mean? Like I said, much like Rogue One, and even the Book of Boba Fett. I like how the show focuses on characters outside the Skywalker dynasty, outside the Skywalker lineage, outside of Jedi's. You know, what I mean? And the thing about it is that this character's rise of popularity, as well as his sidekick, who happens to be on my hat, who you might as well make a case to be the star of the show. If anything, introduce a whole new sort of mascot, if you will. Like, if anything, a whole new moneymaker, if you will. As we call him, quote unquote, Baby Yoda. Later on, like I say, Baby Yoda, later on known as Groot. Not Groot, but Grogu. I'm sorry. Like I said, Baby Yoda, later on known as Grogu. You know what I mean? And so on. Like I said, and like I said, this series, I've been heavily invested from season 1 to season 2, and I look forward to what they have in season 3. And this show takes place. Excuse me. This show takes place 5 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. So this is a post Empire universe, and we have a brand new hero from the same sort of army as Boba Fett, if you will. And this show, like I said, this show has become a new phenomenon in and of itself, and it, I would say, like, it injected a whole new life into Star Wars. It created a whole new sense of enthusiasm and passion for the series, and for those that for those who initially may have been jaded by so many years, like I said, some years of bad writing and storytelling and lack of creativity, lack of direction. This series, was certainly a breath of fresh air. It was, like I said, it was something new, something out of the ordinary, out of the box, and I absolutely enjoyed the villain in this movie, Moff Gideon. Shout out to Giancarlo Esposito, and of course, shout out to Carl Weathers, aka Apollo. Like I say, he was absolutely amazing in his role in this series also. And I like the cliffhanger that we had at the end of season 2, with of course, with the appearance of Luke Skywalker, who ends up taking Grogu and starts training him and everything like that. And so, like I said, and the thing about it is that this series established, like I said, a whole new franchise superstar when it comes to Star Wars. And at number 5, and not to keep rambling on, number 5, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, The Mandalorian. And the thing about it is that I wrestled where this like I said, where this show would rank in Star Wars lore. It should be number 5, number 6. I couldn't I could not put it anywhere below 6 or 7 or anything like that. I think that its importance, I think that what it means even to me as a fan, and also I think and just the way that it rejuvenated interest, the way it sparked interest back into the series, even for it being a TV show. Like I say, and the thing is, this as a TV show has done more than what the recent movies have done. I'm gonna go and say it. The Mandalorian has done more for me as a Star Wars fan than the recent movies, including the recent trilogies. Well, with the exception of of what I have coming up next. But like I said, but like I said, but like I said, it's absolutely amazing. Pedro Pascal has absolutely owned this role as the Mandalorian, and I also like how they. I also like how they. You stop with that. I also like how they brought in characters that were originally in the animated series, such as Bo-Katan, played by Katie Sackhoff, and not and the funny thing about Bo-Katan being in the Mandalorian is that they brought in the voice actor. Like I said, if anything, they brought the voice actor for Bo-Katan from the Star Wars animated series, and put in I'm slow down. When it comes to the character of Bo-Katan, not only did they bring the character to life, but they used the lady that played her voice in the series and cast her as the live action version of Bo-Katan. So they brought the characters to life from the animated series, and they used the actual voice actress to play her in live action. And I also like how they brought Ahsoka Tano to life, even though Rosario Dawson did not play the voice of Ahsoka Tano, but she does a great job as that character anyway. And so as far as those type of cameos, and also with Mercedes Fernando, aka Sasha Banks, playing Koska Reeves, and now she has become a part of that Star Wars lexicon, part of that Star Wars culture and everything like that, to the point where she even has a figurine of her character. You know what I mean? So the Mandalorian has been absolutely amazing. It has absolutely moved the needle when it comes to Star Wars franchise. So I got like 3 Mandalorian shirts. You know what I mean? So if anything, it's had me heavily invested in the series. It's sparked a whole new sense like I said, of enthusiasm, of interest, and once again, I look forward to what they have in store for season 3. And back to what I said before about the book of Boba Fet, and it's not a Boba Fett roast. Mandalorian saved that series the same way that Magic Johnson saved the Lakers in Game 6 of the NBA Finals when Kareem got injured. That's who the Mandalorian was for that book. Like when it comes to Boba Fett. Mandalorian is for Boba Fett, what Moses Malone was for Dr. J when the 76ers needed to win that championship. So you can say Mandalorian is pretty much the MVP of you can pretty much say that Mandalorian is the MVP when it comes to today's Star Wars generation, even though the series takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi, but at the same time, the storytelling, the execution, the character development, the action, everything that you're looking for as a Star Wars fan, this show absolutely has it. And I have yet to be disappointed by the Mandalorian. So I look forward to it continuously racking up wins, win after win after win, back to back. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why I have Mandalorian at number 5 on this list. And number 4, of course, this story takes place 32 years after Return of the Jedi. And and the thing about it is that when I saw that initial trailer with the return of Han Solo saying, Chewie, we're home, automatically I knew I had to get a ticket. I was sold from the jump. I remember that first trailer like it was yesterday. And that is, and not only that, but they introduce um, a villain for a new generation who turns out to be the son of Han Solo and Princess Leia. So, you know what I mean. He was the guy that a lot of us would looked at as a millennial version of Darth Vader, even though he's Vader's grandson. You know, but um, he stepped in to carry the mantle the best way that he could, and we saw the introduction of Finn. And I wish they would have made him a Jedi, especially with the battle between him and that stormtrooper. And that's the first time I've ever seen a stormtrooper be about that action. You know what I mean? So usually stormtroopers miss when they shoot, but this guy was ready for all the smoke. You know what I mean? And not only that, but also with the way that Han Solo died in this movie, I mean, it crushed everybody. And I remember, and this was like the first movie that I know of where, you know, like where I fought so hard, where I fought so hard and had to fight so hard to avoid spoilers, because spoilers were coming left and right. And you know, and not only that, but also it spawned a whole new um, fan base when it comes to cosplayers. You know, when you look at the Kylo Ren cosplayers, the Finn cosplayers, the Rey cosplayers, you know, everything like that, and then of course at the end how it shows Luke Skywalker, who was the hide and seek champion for like 32 years. You know what I mean? So, you know, if anything, like I said, you know, this movie had everything that I longed for, everything that I missed from, you know, ever since the original trilogy. Like I said, when we look at the later trilogies from episode 7, 8, and 9, this by far is still head and shoulders above episode 8 and episode 9. So with that being said, at number 4 on this list is, you know, I'll say it like this, at number 4 on this list is Star Wars episode 7, The Force Awakens. At number 3 on this list, I'm gonna have to go with the movie that started it all, that kickstarted everything. May the Force be with you. This was the origin story of the original Guardians of the Galaxy, if you will. And for those that are watching on YouTube, I have this really cool shirt, this Rebel shirt that, you know, that looks like a Beatles album cover. And of course, you know, like I said, you know, the 4 original Guardians of the Galaxy, if you will. You know, like I said, you know, the team that everybody, that entire generation was raised off of. You know what I mean? That, you know, it's an entire group that like I said, you know, that entered the pop culture lexicon, and like I said, and transcended society in and of itself. And this is what spawned the, you know, like I said, the phrase "May the Force be with you." And of course, that's none other than Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. This is where the world was introduced to Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo, Chewbacca, C-3PO, R2-D2, you know what I mean, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and of course, you know, the biggest villain of them all, Darth Vader. You know, so of course, Episode 4 is in number 3 on this list. Episode 2 for me is Star Wars Return of the Jedi, because of the fact that we have seen Luke Skywalker transition from farm boy on like Tatooine or whatever to becoming a full-fledged Jedi warrior, and stepping into his destiny, stepping up into his role, into his role as you know, as the leader of the rebellion, and as the one that will be responsible for taking down the Empire. You know, and so, you know what I mean, and so you know, like I said, for this, Return of the Jedi is number 2 on this list, especially when you look at the final battle between Luke and like I said, you know, that rematch between Luke and Vader, and how Vader sacrificed himself to save his son Luke. You know, he sacrificed himself to the point where he killed Palpatine while he ended up dying himself. And so, you know, like you know, like slow down. And because of that, because of that, as well, you know, like I said, you know, as well as other moments, You know what I mean? Like, like I said, as well as many other moments in this movie, Return of the Jedi for me is number 2 on this list. And number one, the movie that I've always said is the greatest Star Wars movie ever, my absolute favorite. Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. From start to finish, from bell to bell, from beginning to end, this movie had great moments. From the battle at Hoth, where it was fighting those AT-ATs in the snow, to when Luke trained with Yoda, to when they meet Lando Calrissian on Cloud City, to when we're introduced to Boba Fett. So not only that, but also, since I mentioned Lando, this is the first time the Star Wars movie has introduced a black character. And that was huge at the time. Shout out to Billy D. Williams for his role as Lando Calrissian. He absolutely nailed it, knocked out the park. You know what I mean? He's become an iconic figure for that in and of itself. So like I said, it was groundbreaking when it came to that. This is also the introduction of Boba Fett. You know what I mean? Like, and not only that, but this is also the introduction of Yoda, the introduction of Palpatine. So we see things like that. We, of course, like I said, let me start not only that, but also Han Solo gets frozen in carbonite. We also see the first fight between Luke and Darth Vader, and this is, like I said, this is when we see the biggest revelation and surprise of them all, when Darth Vader reveals that he is Luke Skywalker's father. And that became a catchphrase that still stands to this day. Luke, I am your father. I can't say it obviously like him, but like I said, that's one of those phrases that continues to stick even to this day, like 42 years later. You know what I mean? And so, and the fact that this movie continues to stand the test of time speaks volumes. So and the thing about it is that in this movie, not only did the villain win, but it's the way that he won. Had it not been without Empire Strikes Back, we wouldn't have Infinity War. Without Darth Vader winning, we wouldn't have Thanos winning the way he did. And Empire Strikes Back laid the foundation for Return of the Jedi. So even though the villain won at the end, and it left us with a great cliffhanger, a great sense of suspense in terms of what was going to happen with Han Solo and everything like that. Was and ultimately how they were going to defeat the Empire. Like I said, if anything, like I said, as far as that cliffhanger at the end, that set the stage for the biggest victory of them all in Return of the Jedi. The same way that the ending of Infinity War set up as the building block for we will see as the greatest victory in Endgame. So because because of that, Empire Strikes Back is number 1 on this list. So let me I'm sorry. Let me start over. Of course, I'm gonna go like I said. I'm gonna go back with these rankings. Like I said, with Phantom Menace, number 15, Rise of Skywalker, number 14. Book of Boba Fett at 13, Solo at number 12, Rebels at 11, Kenobi at 10, Revenge of the Sith at 9, Clone Wars at 8, Last Jedi at 7, Rogue One at 6, Mandalorian at 5, Force Awakens at 4, New Hope at 3, Return of the Jedi at 2, and Empire Strikes Back at number 1. Those are my top 15 Star Wars stories of all time. Thank you very much for watching, and may the Force be with you.